My name is Duddits, I do builds and stuff. Today's video is hot, and I am not joking. This build will literally turn you into the alpha scent, alright? You are going to scorch and ignite everything with this Ahab Cha. The Burning Ambition perk, in general, is basically a warlock's best friend, especially when you run things like Ember of Ashes and Dawn Chorus, which we'll be focusing on. But this perk literally lets you point and ignite things, and the scorch damage that you get with this auto rifle and this perk in particular, you literally get like almost triple the damage with this perk. So stay with me, I'll break it down. So the weapon is the Ahab Cha. This is a rapid fire frame, 720 rounds per minute. It's got a couple of good rules on there. The first one being heal clip. This is just very helpful in all situations. Reloading is going to give you a cure. And I've also got the enhanced version of this new perk that's come into the game, Burning Ambition. Dealing sustained damage more quickly, scorches the target. Dealing damage to a scorch target inflicts more scorch. So basically this is just a point and ignite, which we'll go into. And it's also got a very nice origin trait on there, Bray Legacy. Damaging with this weapon generates a small amount of ability energy for the one closest to full charge. Just a nice little combo. So I'm going to show you what this Burning Ambition actually does. So it will apply Scorch, a bit like Incandescent, except you don't need a kill. And then if anything is scorching already, you are going to apply more Scorch to that target. So you apply Scorch and then keep sustained fire to increase that scorch. Really nice little perk. Now, if you add in something like Touch of Flame, where you're going to make your healing grenades have a longer duration, something like Solar Grenade, for example, and you also stick on Helion, you're going to activate more Scorch. You're going to scorch targets with either or, Helion being the main focus of this particular build. So your Helion is going to apply Scorch as well as your weapon. You've also got your grenade, like we mentioned, and your melee, just to keep that Scorch going all of the time. So if they're not sort of ticking with Scorch, shoot them with your auto rifle, hit them with your grenade, your melee, or your Helion, and then just keep firing, and you're just going to cause ignitions left, right, and centre all of the time. But what I wanted to do with this particular perk was enhance them ignitions and damage. So if you stick on Ember of Ashes, you apply more Scorch stacks to targets. This is absolutely insane for this weapon and this perk, because you're going to get to the 100 Scorch stack more quicker to cause that ignition. Bang on your Dawn Chorus. Your Daybreak projectiles deal more damage and scorch targets on impact. Your scorch is improved and you gain a small amount of melee energy whenever you scorch a target. That with your Bray Legacy, just buffing out all your other abilities. It just feels very nice. So in this clip, what I'm going to show you is how fast you get an ignition with nothing else going on. No Dawn Chorus, no Ember of Ashes, and I also want you to keep an eye on them scorch numbers as well. You can cause an ignition about every 5 seconds just with the auto rifle, 4 or 5 seconds, and then look at the scorch numbers coming off this guy. 7s, 5s, you get the odd 10 here and there, but nothing crazy. Now, what I'm going to do in the next clip is equip Dawn Chorus and Ember of Ashes, which we've talked about, and you're going to get more ignitions more often because your Ashes are improving your Scorch stacks and your Dawn Chorus is improving your Scorch numbers. So you're going to get more ignitions, and look at the state of the damage going up. Them Scorch numbers go from 10s to 51s. Absolutely huge. That is your Dawn Chorus and your Ember of Ashes working together in perfect sort of alignment. You're going to literally cause so much damage. Ignitions every 2 or 3 seconds once you've got these two. So this gun is basically like a hot laser. If you see something scorching, stick that on and that will cause an ignition every 2 or 3 seconds, and you get some really big numbers. Now, there's a couple of fragments which we'll go into in a moment, but just for example, when I was talking about pointing the weapon, stick your Scorch on, point your weapon at that scorch target, and that is going to ignite that target very easily. It's so easy to do, and you're going to get all that extra damage, like I said, your scorch numbers, etc. Now, a couple of fragments that really buff this out really well. If you go on Ember of Cha, your ignitions spread scorch to affected targets, then you use your gun to shoot at them scorch targets. Ember of Eruption, your solar ignitions have an increased area of effect. This one's really good. Gives it an extra 10 meters, I think, or 5 meters, I believe. And then Ember of Singeing, this is a big one. Your class ability recharges faster when you scorch targets. Because you're scorching all of the time, you've literally got infinite class ability for your Helion, which is more ways to apply Scorch amongst your grenade and your melee as well. And once you've got everything going on, like I said, I've said it a couple of times, your weapon is an ignition laser. You point at a Scorch target, and that's it. Things just go boom. So this is what I'm talking about now. Your weapon deals a moderate amount of damage, but the actual ignitions is what's going to give you the most damage, and you Scorch with this weapon as well. Now, like I said, the auto rifle is pretty decent. It's not too bad, but it is an auto rifle, so it's not going to hit like an absolute truck. But the ignitions and the Scorch damage is where this is at. You're going to get loads of damage just from that. Add in Favor of Chill, you're going to get Radiant on tap with solar weapon precision hits. You can also add in Elemental Coalescence. Defeating targets is a chance to create a fire sprite as well, because running a solar super, you pick that fire sprite up, and you're going to get an extra 10% damage with Elemental Overdrive, which stacks with your Surges as well, so you can get a big damage increase on your auto rifle. And then finally, we're going to go with Radiant Shrapnel. Whenever you are Radiant, you're going to defeat Scorch targets. That is going to release solar projectiles as well, which is just a nice little added bonus. Now, I've got a couple of clips here. I was doing the Mythic sort of story quest, and the auto rifle itself wasn't actually doing a lot of damage. I was so underleveled in this. It took us a long while, but we wanted to get the quest done. But the ignitions and the Scorch damage made up for the lack of damage that this auto rifle was doing in Mythic. Like I said, not against the auto rifle or anything like that. It was just me. I was very, very underleveled. But you can see in this clip, you literally chain ignitions left, right, and center as well. What you can also do with this is add in Dragon's Breath, for example. So as well as your Helion and your grenade and your melee, it actually also buffs Dragon's Breath as well, because you can point your Dragon's Breath into an area, which Dragon's Breath already causes quite a lot of ignitions anyway, but point your auto rifle at that target as well, and that's just going to cause even more ignitions than normal, even more damage. So you've got loads of different ways to sort of use this particular build. Like I said, I was totally underleveled in this, like well underleveled. And it was clearing rooms out, especially when you chain ignitions. Now, the one thing I will say about this is if you go run this in a normal sort of activity, you're not going to see the benefits. It actually works better, the harder activity, because the enemies are a bit more tanky, and you can start chaining them ignitions. It happens all the time, especially if you point this laser at the target that's Scorch. You're going to see ignitions left, right, and center very, very easily. Look, just it happens all the time, honestly. And again, the harder the activity, the tankier the enemy, the better this shines. I'll quickly go over my mods, etc. just like so. I've pretty much covered everything. All I've really done is just gone with a couple of solar surges. There's my fragments I was using and my aspects, which we've touched on anyway. You could sort of build into this many different ways. I went with solar surges, but you could also build into sort of grenade recharge rate as well. The other thing to mention with Scorch ignitions, it is actually unstop as well, so you can cause unstoppable anytime you want. So the main point of the video, what I really wanted to get across with this Burning Ambition, no matter what weapon it's on, it is an actual sort of buff to your damage with the auto rifle. So it's basically like 2 damage types, and this build is basically just maxing out your ignitions and your Scorch damage. Again, more chained ignitions, and all them little 266s is just extra DPS for you or extra damage over time. Just really, really solid. I hope you found this video helpful. Burning Ambition is a Warlock's best friend, although I'm sure there'll be some other builds, but for me, Ember of Ashes Dawn Chorus is just unbeatable for Scorch and Ignition builds. The other exotic to consider would be the new Warlock Gauntlets as well, but like I said, Dawn Chorus and Ember of Ashes is just too good. Thanks for watching, have a great day.